Hi, welcome. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on and then we'll get started. Hi, good evening. I'm Amber Wakefield. Welcome to our third in the series of talks on human trafficking. If you've joined us the past few weeks, the first week we had Chief McFarland from the Effingham Police Department talking about what he does in the combat against human trafficking. Last Wednesday, we had Trish McKnight join us, survivor, author, advocate of human trafficking. And this week I have with me Annie Schomaker and Winda. I'm going to let them tell a little bit about themselves. Annie, would you mind telling us about what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. I'm one of the founders and directors at Eden's Glory. So Eden's Glory is a safe house for survivors of trafficking. And Ginger and I, really felt compelled about 7 years ago now to address the issue of human trafficking in some capacity in our lives. And through that just kept evolving into education and awareness, and then hearing the call from so many, especially in law enforcement, that we need more homes. And so we, along with our community, looked around and said, I think this is something that we could do. And so for the past 5.5 years, we have welcomed women from around the country to come and heal and recover from the wounds of trafficking and the deep-seated trauma. We also do a lot of education and awareness, really in an attempt to hope to end trafficking and work ourselves out of a job. So that's another big piece of who we are. And then just recently, we are in the process of launching what's called Foster Kairos. So it's taking what we've learned from Eden's Glory and the work that we've done here and what we've learned from the women, and then bringing a program and counseling services to minors who have either been trafficked or are highly vulnerable to being trafficked. So we're excited. The Lord is expanding and doing just phenomenal things way beyond our imagination. But our hope is that as we keep engaging communities like yourselves and fighting it and addressing it, then the hope is that will just have a ripple effect, right? Because we can only do so much, but a community and then beyond, we can see an impact. So yeah.
Before I move on, I want to ask you about something you just said.
Yeah.
The new program that you're hoping to get is
Yeah.
kind of, you say, geared towards the vulnerable community, like the community that's at risk.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the community that's at risk?
Yeah, so we know that in the U.S., statistically, minors are highly, highly vulnerable to being trafficked. The average entry age into the sex industry for girls is 12 to 14. The average entry age into sex industry for boys is 7 to 9. And we know that issues like poverty, racism, addiction, broken homes, insecurity, internet use, that all creates vulnerabilities. Natural disasters, COVID is a prime example. And so when all of those, or some of those are at play, a person is highly vulnerable to then be groomed. So that'd be a whole nother conversation.
Sure.
But we know that there are minors that have been trafficked. All of the women who have come to Eden's Glory have shared that it happened at a very early age. And what we've heard from them is if somebody had listened, if somebody had believed, if somebody had responded, then I wouldn't have had 2 decades of exploitation. So our hope is that we can get in and respond quickly when it happens or before it happens. And if that's the case, then again, we're working ourselves out of a job, because they don't need to be 30 and come and ask for help, right? We can address it when they're 10. So that's our hope.
Beautiful day when you're looking for employment.
Right? Oh my gosh, happy day.
So you said something in there that you talked about the vulnerable, said something else that
sparked my questions, but I think I may have lost it. That's okay.
It's good.
I also want to introduce Winda. I'm thrilled to have met you. We've had a chance to talk before this interview, so this has been a lot of fun. Winda is a graduate of the program and now one of the house managers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you mind telling us a little bit about your story?
Yes. Well, I was adopted, come to the U.S. and have like a good beginning for 2 months. Then everything went straight into chaos, and I left after like 6 years and stuff, and living on the street. And
How old were you
when I come to the country,
when you were adopted? And you
I was 15.
15.
Yeah, and yes, and after I left, I was living on the street for a little bit. Then, as usual, I didn't have education. I didn't have any other skills than pleasing men. So I went and found me a job at a strip club, and I was working there for a little bit. Then I had outside client, and one time I was in a hotel with a client and finding out he was undercover FBI, and he told me I need to get out. And that wasn't just like one person, like it went on to be like 3 people, undercover FBI telling me 3 different times that I needed to get out, but because I wasn't really listening, like I was pregnant and that was the time for me to get out. So I went and asked for help because I didn't want to live in the strip club and working while I was pregnant and give the life of that child the beginning of that. So I went and asked for help at a pregnancy clinic, and the nurses in there really helped listen to me and give me choices, and they helped me get in contact with the adoption lawyer, and they helped me get to a pregnancy shelter, and from there, like, I find people that listen to me and that really helped me get out for good. And after I had my baby, I was able to move out of state, go to like programs and stuff, and that's how I got out.
That's awesome. Were there times when you had asked for help along the way?
Yes.
That you didn't necessarily feel like was a helpful move?
Yes. Before I went away, because like everybody that I asked for help in the beginning, they were kind of working, but the government at some point, like police officers, like lawyers and stuff, like I asked for help, and at the time they were in the payroll of my abuser, so they could not help. And when I asked police officers to help me, it wasn't the help. Like there was one time I called 911 and I was speaking and working English, but like French in the middle, like, and the police came, but it wasn't to take me out of the house. It's to show me what I was doing was wrong, like, which is like calling police on that specific person who was like highly respected, was that. So I got punished by pleasing those police officers. So I'm just like, no, I'm never gonna ask the government people for help ever again. I would do it myself. And so I waited another like 4 years before I went away, because I didn't trust the other people to help me. I had to take it on myself to get out.
Your abuser was highly connected
Yes.
and with the community and
Yes.
had paid the
Yes.
local law enforcement.
Mhm.
I think, and we hear that a lot, right? When there's multiple attempts to get out or multiple attempts to ask for help, and it either ends up making the situation worse and they get punished for it, or they're not believed, or oh no, that didn't really happen. That instills. I mean, you heard Winda said 4 years before she eventually left, and that's such a common thread that we hear from the women that. I mean, I tried and people didn't believe me, or I tried and then I got punished for it. And so even just the effort of asking for help takes an incredible amount of courage, and then the right person to ask for help, because if you don't get help in that moment, it can make it much worse. And so what you and I may think, well, just ask somebody, right? Just say something. Usually is not the case. It's not safe to do that. So, yeah.
Were there people along the way that planted seeds of hope that
Yes.
that kept you, filled with strength?
Yes, like those undercover FBI agent that told me to get out. This is not the life for you. Like, you need to get out. You don't want to end up dying on the street. Like, God loves you. There are people there that needs to help you, that willing to help you. You just have to go and find them. Two of them, they give me a card to call those places, but I just didn't take it because again, they are working for the government, and I have history of bad relationship experience with them, so I didn't.
Were you afraid to maybe get caught with those materials on you, like a business card of a law enforcement or of a organization or something?
Yes.
Tell them about the nurse and what she asked you.
Oh yes. When I was 9 and I was having a miscarriage, and I didn't know that because I didn't know what
Because you were 9.
pregnancy
Yeah.
is. So I wake up in the hospital, on a bed and stuff, and there was a nurse sitting next to my bed, make sure that nobody else watching, because she knows what happened. And so when I wake up, and she was gently talking to me, and I remember for the first time somebody asked me what happened. And the situation, it was very painful, because it's the first time somebody asked me the right question instead of what did you do, you female dog, stuff like that. But she was very polite and calm and asked me what happened, and I feel this is my opportunity to seize it, to tell her what happened, which I did. And I feel it was a perfect time that the Lord had created for that to happen. So I told her, and she took the information and did her best and helped me get out of the home that I was and put me in a second home. But yeah, I was very grateful that there were people like her to come out and ask the right question, make me feel everything, it's not my fault. You need two people to tango.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just me. Just because I'm a female doesn't mean I'm asking for things, which in the past, that's what the question was. She's asking for it,
Mm-hmm.
a 9-year-old.
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you find that that's a magical question? I know that if anyone was asked that question, or is it timing, or is it, just actually asking, are you okay? What happened?
I feel in that moment it was magical, perfect timing question, because in the past, when even myself went and said that I'm hurting, somebody hurt me, the other people always were looking for bruises, physical bruises that wasn't in places where they can see.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that was like the biggest problem, because it wasn't like I was hitting with a belt where there was bruises, and it was totally different, the opposite of that. And even the people that asked me that one question, they were under the authority of the higher power that was abusing me. Even if they wanted to do something, they were afraid of losing their job. They were afraid of being like the one
Sure.
responsible for that person losing his name. Like, yeah.
Do you hear that from a lot of other?
Yeah, I think, so what I love about that is that in all the trainings that we do on trauma-informed care, that's one of the things that we hit on is, and so before I'd even met Winda, we were telling people, like, instead of going in and saying, what's wrong with you, what did you do, just the flip of what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference in the tone, there's a difference in the blame, and so here's a 9-year-old who had been for years asking for help and had been blamed for what had happened to her and been told that it was her fault. And all the women that we've worked with have had that same, like, I thought it was my fault, I thought I did it, I got myself into this. And when we as service providers or community members are inadvertently, maybe if we're not even meaning to, if we're putting the blame on the victim, then it even more shuts down. And so when Winda comes and she tells the story about 9 years old, like, this is a long time ago, but that nurse, whoever she was, I wish I could meet her, asked, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Something happened to you and it wasn't your fault, and I want to help. And so that changed the trajectory for Winda, and the trafficking unfortunately continued. But I think she's one of those people that then sets the groundwork to say there are people who recognize that it was not your fault, that you did not ask for this, you didn't get yourself into this. A kid cannot make that decision. And then when other people come along and they're asking that same question, oh, okay, maybe there's more people. So
Yeah.
we just, in our trainings, a lot of times we'll say, like, you don't know what that one question could do, what that one tone could do, what your approach could do, and you may not see the results of it, but decades later we're still talking about it. Like, that's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
Of all the people, she asked it in the right way.
Yeah.
You know, and Winda knew that there was some safety there. There's something about how she looked, how she asked, how she sat, how, her whole approach.
There's an energy to it too, to feel like
Being able to meet in person and talk in person rather than on a phone and sit,
Right.
hold space for somebody
Yeah.
or with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what was the
Turning point. How did you get out?
Me getting out was the pregnancy of how everybody wanted me to just abort or even just stay and work. And everybody has a fetish for something.
Right.
And there were people that had that fetish for like pregnant people, and I just wasn't up for it. I feel like it was time the Lord has like, no, I want you out. And it was like a really strong feeling that I did not wanna work in the strip club while I was pregnant, or work in it after I had the baby. I just would not do that, and because I didn't wanna do that, and having those people who were like trying their best to normalize it, to make me stay, I'm just like, that's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in that season of the experience, I found my voice. saying, no, I'm not staying, because that's not what I want to do. And because of that, I quit, and I just went to the pregnancy shelter and tell them what's going on, what I want. I need help, but I can't find help. And if the people working at the pregnancy center wasn't willing to help me, then I will have to give in and go back and do what these people are asking, because like I went and asked for help. Thank God I found help, but if I didn't have help, I will have no hope but to go back and make money and like take care of myself and the baby. And I feel like, yeah, going over there and just like talk to those people, and they listen. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, no, like, and there's something about having a survivor tell somebody a story and to finally have somebody believe you, because for so long nobody believed me. And when those two women believed me and cried and come and hugged me and say that they are sorry for what I went through, I feel anger. Like, no, I'm not telling you that to feel sorry for me. I'm telling you that so I can get help. But there was so much behind what they were saying, because for so long I've been stuffing emotions down. There was so much to feel that I wasn't feeling anything, because I could not choose from what feeling to feel. So I didn't receive what they were saying with a good heart. I just wanted to get out. But later on, like, I'm finding out, even when I was at the pregnancy shelter, I have those two women come and visit. In my mind, I'm just like, why? I'm just like, nobody. But they come and visit me until like I had given birth, when I walk away, and I'm just like, oh, these people are crazy. Like they don't understand it, but yeah.
And now being on the other end of it,
I understand.
you understand
Yes.
that. Yeah, to be looking at people and saying,
Yeah.
I'm sorry you were put in this situation. Do you see their anger too? Can you identify
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and I tell them right now, you're feeling angry that I believe you for so long. Nobody believe you, but it will pass, and you'll have more people now to believe you. When you open your mouth, you have people that will close their mouth and let you speak. This is your time right now to tell your story, to speak. You're gonna have these people. Yeah.
From the time that you made the decision to leave, and these two gals were survivors as well and talked to you, was there a trajectory or a process that you went through? I think you talk about trauma-informed care a lot, or I think, what is there a process to healing, to getting to the point where you are a survivor helping victims?
Excuse me. There is, but the thing is, the road to healing is a hard one. It is painful, and I worked it, and I'm like a testimony of it. It's hard. Like, not everybody is ready for it. I wasn't ready for it, but because God was putting his foot down, say that you're gonna do it, Winda. And I'm just like, okay, like, God said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Like, I done enough running. I'm not running anymore. I'm gonna do it. But it was like very painful. The most thing about like trauma and from care things for me was like going to counseling to talk about the trauma. Like, I didn't think I was a trauma victim. I didn't even think that I was a victim of abuse until I was doing a class with Amy, Beyond Love.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Love, that's like a 12-step book that we were working on, and we were like doing the work, the book, and there was question like, how do you do something about like your abuser and stuff. Like, I feel for those people that white stuff like, but I don't understand until she's like, Winda, what you went through was abuse. I didn't know that. Because I'm just like, this is how every kid in the whole world live. Like, you support family. Like, I didn't know until she said that, and I was mad at her. Even for today, like because I was fine with it, because I didn't understand it was a bad thing. Then she said, no, it was bad. The father should not treat her daughter like that. A mother should not ask her daughter to do these things. I was like, what do you know? Like, but like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And when she helped me understand these things, I was mad. Not at myself, at the people for doing it, and at her for put the clarity, shine the light on it. Like, I was angry all the time, and I don't know. She even helped me identify my feelings, naming my feelings, which is not good. Like, I don't like naming my feelings. I just like chop everything into anger, but not. Sometimes I'm frustrated, sometimes I'm annoyed, but because I didn't know how to identify with my feelings, I just say I'm angry when it's not really anger. But yeah, with that, and like going to counseling and dealing with the deep hurt, not just the surface, but there's something deeper down. I didn't want to go that deep because like I thought that I have dealt with it and just put it away. In reality, I just shove it down. And when counselors are like talking to you, trying to make you understand, it's just like painful. Like, no, I don't. You lying. Like, for a long time, I thought they were being the brainwashers, not my guardian as an early age, not like the abusers. I thought they were the one. Then I had to relearn. I had to accept that, and it was very painful for me.
That sounds like it would take a lot of courage to keep believing the real thing, the truth that you're being told versus the thing that you learned from a young age. Because that's how we're formed, you know?
Yeah.
There's not words for like the strength I think that takes to keep going and
No.
healing.
No. And I had to surrender a lot to the Lord, especially things that I don't understand, like why were my guardians, my caretaker were so sick. I don't know why. And the sad thing is that it wasn't just me. It was every other kid that was around me. The same thing was happening, and that's why in my small mind as a child, I thought like the whole world was like that. To find out at like 27 that no, it wasn't supposed to happen in the first place. It's just like, you're lying. You're lying right now. And I cried, and I was very angry at that. And sometimes I just have to ask the Lord to help me still give that to you. I don't understand it, to feel okay about it.
We talked a little before we went live about compassion and grace and how deep your well is for that. And I admire that. I learned a lot in just a short amount of time about those forgiveness. Yeah. You talk about the program. You talk about a book that you guys have used in a workbook. Can you kind of talk about a little bit of the program and what's involved in it?
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine each of the women come and we say, for 1 year, we want you to just heal. So if from the age of 4, you've heard all these messages over and over and over, you've had all these situations over and over and over, and every person you've trusted has repeatedly hurt you, then now imagine you come to a place, you meet people you don't know, and now they're trying to tell you that no, we care about you, we love you. We have to be really careful about the messages that we say, because it can sound very similar to the abusers and the traffickers if we're not careful. Oh, you're safe here. Well, that's what they had been told. Oh, you can trust us. You can't trust them. Like, we can't get
Sure.
into that kind of battle. And so it is a process of allowing them to come to that place of realization. And because a lot of the women come and say, I don't need to be here because I'm not a victim. And so we throw the term victim out the window because that needs to be their journey and their process. And we, I mean, even amongst, we say survivor, like,
From the
not a
beginning.
victim. Yeah, you're a
Mhm.
survivor.
Which is true.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, but the other thing is that what we have found is that for so many of them, this feels normal. And you and I have normal things that, situations that we, as kids, we thought were normal. I still remember getting to college and realizing that some of my family's quirks were not normal, and they were humorous, but they weren't normal. And so getting to know my friends, and they were like, that's so weird. But that's all I knew as a kid. And when we're kids, our world is in front of us, right? And so somebody once said that to tell somebody that what they experienced is trauma can be more traumatizing than the trauma itself. And so, I mean, this is a prime example. So when they have that moment, when they realize, oh my gosh, your dad didn't do that to you, your mom didn't do that to you, your boyfriend didn't do that to you. I can't tell you how many classes we have on like healthy marriage, healthy relationships, boundaries, dating, healthy sex, like all of those things, even appropriate things to talk about and ways that people can treat, like all of that almost always comes back with, oh, I didn't realize that what I had experienced was not normal. And so we have to walk that line very cautiously, because if we just immediately like, yep, your whole childhood was a lie, and all the things that they told you were love is not love. You can't turn somebody's world upside down that quickly. And so they need a year to heal, a year to unravel all of those lies of what love is, what safety is, what family is, what health is, who they are aside from the trauma. And so it sounds like a lot, but a year's not a lot when you're getting into those kinds of wounds, right? And so literally the first year, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is class after class after class of healing and digging into the trauma and understanding the trauma, understanding the vulnerabilities, understanding what led up to it, to avoid that happening again, right? And then building back into that of building safety, building love, building hope, building confidence, building a voice, and it takes a long time. And most people won't do that, right? Most people would even say counseling once a week or once a month is, no, that's too much. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And here these women are coming and investing deeply with the most courage I've ever seen and the most resilience I've ever seen. And so whether they're here a month or the whole 2 years, that takes unbelievable courage to say, I'm going to spend that time looking in the deep, deep, deep well of who I am and my past, and then try to make sense of that. So then we want the whole second year to be kind of building in of, all right, now what could life look like now, right?
That's empowering to hear. Like, it makes me uncomfortable hearing that I would spend a year in that deep. It
Right?
just, yeah,
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Are you working mostly with women on the flip side, on the year 1, the year 2? Are you both? Both.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask before we turn to some questions about that people have for you. What's your favorite part being on this side and helping the new survivors that come in?
something about it. It's seeing that how committed the staff is, because I see myself a lot under new residents that come in like I was worse like, than them, and
We laugh because of what she told us
Yes,
earlier.
right,
you
right,
know, it's,
right.
it's one of those, you see yourself in
Yep.
someone and you're like, oh
Yep.
no, I'm in for it.
Yep.
yes, and seeing that like when they are like really try their hardest to really surrender something to the Lord that they know that they can't do by themselves, that they need the help. It's really amazing, and seeing them like for the first time, like really realizing that this wasn't normal. And when that happened, like I'm not one to cry, but I get emotional on the inside and trying so hard to keep the tears in. It's like, that was me. I wonder how they felt when I finally realized that for myself, after I was so mad at them for telling me this wasn't okay,
Mhm.
when I'm like, yeah, realizing that and seeing that, and then it's just like such a, it's not really a rewarded experience. It just like, I'm just thankful that I'm in that journey with them. That's the only way I can describe it.
I love that.
And Winda gets to say, I did it. Right? Where we don't get to say that.
Right.
Right? But Winda can say, I've been there and I promise it's worth it. Like, she has more just power and ability in the home and in those relationships as a mentor. There is more change that happens in a 5-minute conversation with Winda than could happen in a year of classes with me, because she knows and she's done it, and she not only survived, she's now thriving.
Mhm.
So I love when they come to me and they're like, okay, but really, Winda could not have been really angry, because we don't see that in her. She tells us that she was angry, but really, and I'm like, no, she really was. And so them like getting to see Winda on the other side, and
That's
and then
hopeful.
her telling them stories of like, no, this is how I used to be. I love it because they don't believe it, but then it sparks the hope of like, oh, maybe I could do that too. Yeah.
You get to see that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not sure
Yeah.
there's a word for that,
Mhm.
that reward that on the flip side
Yeah.
to help somebody. Do you find it difficult sometimes when you're working with some of the residents that feel maybe put back into a space that was traumatizing, or something that comes up from your past?
Yes, I get triggered a lot, but because of my healing journey, of all the coping skills that I learned from my therapist and the staff here, I get to use that. Like when somebody say that I hate you, they're not directly saying that they hate me. They hate that I look like somebody that hurt them, or I have a structure, my face structure reminds them. Not that I look exactly like that person, but because something in my eyes remind them of something. Like the way that I say that word remind them of someone. When they say that, I'm just done with you right now. I'm just like, I know that they got triggered by something, and with that I'm just like, oh, I triggered them. Then I have to wait, because I know, like when I was in the program, when I was like triggered or upset about something, I don't want people to come right away and speak to me, talk to me. I will need my space, so I will like give that to them. And like once you start working with them after a month or two, you will realize everybody's like body type, what they like, they love language. Like some of them want you to come right away if I'm crying, like come and just talk to me. Or you have others that's just like, no, give me like 30, like to an hour, then you can come. Let me compose myself first, then you can come. so you will know. So like I would do that, but like yeah, like especially the one that come fresh out of the street into the home, like it's very triggered because they will like say something that I know what that means. Like even if they don't mean it the way that I heard it or received it, it's just like, okay, I'm in it now. I'm in it now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't our world be a better place if we thought along those lines? Like, here's Winda able to say, it's not me,
Mm-hmm.
something I did or said reminded, and so to not take it personal, but to say that person just experienced something that was really difficult, that was really triggering, and now I'm going to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness or anger. Like, trafficking or no, like, wouldn't we be better off if we put ourselves in it for a minute and just said, what just happened for that person?
Absolutely.
Like,
And even further for that, you identified a love language in somebody.
yeah,
Mhm.
And that's so important
Yeah.
to identify how people give and receive
Yeah.
affection and love
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and kindness, you know? It'd be so great. I just kind of want you to teach a couple classes of just basic that. Like, recognize that somebody's, it's not, it's not about me.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's not personal. Yeah.
Let me check and see if we have some questions.
Yeah.
This one's for you, Annie. What is the typical time frame of a survivor's healing process?
It's a tough one.
I'm still healing.
You know, we said this earlier.
Yeah.
Hurt people, and then you added,
Healed people heal people. I mean, Jesus does the healing, but through healed people, I think Jesus has more room to come out and do the healing. But yeah, I mean, I would love to say, a year in, you're going to be good to go. 2 years in, you're going to be good to go. But I think we're all on a trajectory of healing from some wound. And so when it's that long and that deep, it doesn't just go away. I'm still in conversation with women who have come and gone and are still saying, I'm still wrestling. I still have mornings where I wake up and I go, oh my gosh.
and the body does things. You were
Yeah.
saying, the body does things out of your control, like nightmares
Yes.
or things like that, that puts you back in a space that
Yeah.
you have to, I think you said, use your coping tools.
Yeah. So we offer 2 years at Ethan's Glory, but it doesn't end at 2 years. It doesn't end at 1 month when they like it. We want to continue that relationship and that healing and that process, because I think even a lot of the women have shared that after leaving Eden's Glory, then it was another step of just really hard. Of now I have a job and I have coworkers and people who don't understand me, and the triggers are still, and still wrestling with those, and they creep back in, and so
Maybe at a greater degree since they're
Yeah.
not in a supportive
yeah,
place
it can almost get
for so.
it almost gets worse before it gets better, right? And that's hard, but it does. That I guess what we try to encourage survivors of any kind of trauma is that right at the beginning, it's going to be like every minute you're feeling triggered and you're just like in it and in survival mode and in that fight or flight, and then slowly maybe once a day, and then maybe once a week, and then maybe once a month, and then maybe once a year, and then maybe you go, oh my gosh, I haven't like felt that overwhelming panic
Mm-hmm.
in a long time. Not that it's like grief, it can still creep back in unexpectedly, but the further out you get and the more coping mechanisms you get and the more support and the community, then there's just a deeper resiliency and strength that the
Mhm.
Lord just keeps pouring in. And yeah.
Do your counselors go through a specific training to help these strong survivors?
We kind of talked about that, but I don't think we were on camera when we did that.
Yeah, so we have a couple on staff, but then we also contract, and we're always looking for clinical therapists who have experience working with trauma survivors. There's a difference. There's a wide range of counselors out there for different issues, and we really, really look for therapists that can and have experience working with trauma survivors, because it's just a different level. We really highly value EMDR training. Is super effective. Brain spotting.
Can you break that down, EMDR, just briefly, so
Yeah.
that people aren't...
Yeah. Do you want to explain EMDR from? I can.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So EMDR, in a very basic, it's taking traumatic memories that are on the right side of your brain, and through a process that the therapist goes through with you, it helps those memories get over to the left side of the brain, so that it's not as traumatic. And so using grounding, and it's called, I'm gonna mess it up, eye movement. Oh, good.
Rapid movement.
Yeah. Good grief, I'm blanking. I'm not a very good therapist.
That's okay, I put you on the spot.
Yeah. No, but the basic thing is that when you've experienced trauma, your body is still feeling it like you're in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when Winda or one of the women have a nightmare or get triggered, their body feels like they're still there. It's happening all over again. And if we can get that memory over to the left side of the brain, then you're able to say, I experienced this happened to me, but I don't have the same physical response, I don't have the same emotional response, because it's a thing that happened, it's not happening. And it's phenomenally effective. I mean, the research behind it is just unbelievable with any trauma survivor. So we love when we can find a therapist that has that training. It's super effective. We've also found that if we can have a therapist outside of Eden's Glory, then it gives them a place outside of our staff that they can go and process, but also vent about us.
I was just going to say, so they can talk about you.
Right, because I can't go in and lead a bunch of classes with Winda and then have a one-on-one session. It just the dynamic there, and so we really tried to separate that. Where we're going to do the trauma classes here as a group, and work with you here, and then we're going to have a specific therapist just for you. We're not.
No one's...
Yep.
It's important, even in just a family structure or a friend system, that you have that person that you can be like, I gotta vent to
Annie is
you.
driving me crazy today.
Yeah,
and
I love her, but oh my goodness, today is not the day.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, that's a huge part of the program, and it's hard. It's hard to find somebody with that good of experience. We found a few that have been just, amazing, and we're so thankful.
Yeah. A lot of people are just, I'll share with you afterwards all the wonderful things people are saying. We're getting, it's just some really great comments. One of the question was, do you do education programs for law enforcement? It sounds like they're often the front lines with these individuals and could be better equipped to help them. I've seen you speak. This is my first time meeting you, but you do speaking as well. We've talked. Your speaking engagements are full of incredible information that I feel people learn a lot from. But do you do special outside trainings?
Yeah, we're actually in February going to be training law enforcement up in Springfield, and I just got done teaching a class where we had social workers and law enforcement criminal justice majors, and we've trained law enforcement out in Colorado and a couple other places that were mixed in. But for law enforcement, we really, they usually have the training on trafficking and what to look for. We add in more pieces of a bigger picture of that, but then we also really hit on the trauma piece and the trauma-informed care piece, because again, most of these women and law enforcement have a protocol, and they have a time limit usually on how long they can talk to somebody or how deep they can get into that. But we've just seen time and time again that even if it's just a law enforcement officer being able to read a situation and say, she's telling me one thing, but her body language and the situation is telling me something completely different. She may say, I want to be here, I'm good, I got this, leave me alone. that could be because she is. That could be because she's being watched and threatened, and she doesn't know what's going to happen afterwards. It could also be because she's triggered by the fact that they're wearing a uniform, and the person right before was wearing and so.
Well, in your history of
Right.
of not trusting
Right.
law enforcement because they're involved.
Right. Right.
There's,
Right. So really trying to, and it's the same with, EMTs and doctors and any frontline worker needs to be able to read the situation and understand what happens when a person has experienced trauma. The brain changes, the body changes, all of the impact of that tells you a little bit more than just what they're verbally saying.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of what we hit when we train law enforcement is how to read the trauma-informed piece so that they can respond differently, or bring somebody else in. If they don't have the time
Sure.
or if they don't have the training, like at least to acknowledge something's going on here, so I'm going to bring in an advocate or I'm going to bring in a social worker, or we've had amazing law enforcement who have said, we'll send in the female and in plain clothes. Like,
Thank
who
you.
just went above and beyond and said,
Mhm.
all right, the uniform's trigger, okay, we don't have to come in for the uniform.
Mhm.
That goes above and beyond and is not always possible, but yeah, that's been part of our trainings.
We're almost at an hour, and
I know. I told you it'd go fast. I have gobs of questions. I could make this last 3 hours.
We can keep going.
We could get a pizza
and we can do more. We can do
Yeah.
other evenings.
We can, and I really hope to. I do want to say that for anyone watching, after this goes live, that they can leave comments, and we'll be in touch, and
Yeah.
we can answer comments and questions after the live. We can also add information too, how to maybe refer someone to you guys, or how
Yep.
to reach out to you for engagements or
Yep.
education training. We hope to kind of connect the dots between a lot of the different organizations that are doing this, that offer training. If you're interested in finding out some more information and you want to get a little bit more involved or have a training at your facility for your organization, feel free to send a message to the page. I think I've tagged Annie
Great.
and Eden's Glory in it too, so she'll be able to see that too. And I really thank you guys for all this wonderful insight. I learned so much. Every time I speak with Annie, I learn so much. I've even further learned more.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thanks for making it work.
thank you for sticking around and watching. This concludes our 3-part series on human trafficking, but it certainly doesn't stop here. We've been talking about see something, say something for these 3 weeks. That it's a different dynamic in how we're changing the ability to see struggles and to identify that before it becomes a problem. And that's kind of what our part as a community member, I guess that would be my final question. As a community member, what is the best thing I can do to help?
Yeah. Oh man. You guys are doing it. Learning is huge. Learn. We're still learning. So I would say do your part in learning what it is, what it looks like, and then just a few basic quick things. Be a good neighbor. Like, man, the neighbors that these women have had, I just wonder, and it makes me wonder, like, what's happening in my neighborhood that I don't know about. And so if we did a better job as a community being involved, being engaged, having the front porch mentality of being outside and not just going in, and I know COVID changes that, but do we know people? Like, do we invest in the relationships? And we all know somebody who's vulnerable. We all know somebody who is on the fringe. And can we love deeply? Can we invest in that person and be the person that's going to keep loving them, keep asking them how they're doing, keep asking them what happened, because who knows, they may put you off for a little bit, and it's messy. It's messy. It's hard, but it's so worth it to be in that journey with that person. And I really feel like the Lord calls us, and He brings different people into our lives, and we've been called. So love deeply, and invest. Yeah.
That's very touching. It was a better answer than I could have ever asked for. Again, thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and look for more information coming out soon. Thank you.
Thank you.